new one, new one, new one, new one, new one. I just flooded my wrist, this a new one. Feeling low with my steep, bought a new one. When it cost a new coupe, this a new one. Had to cut that bitch out, got a new one. New chain, new watch, new bed.
So what's good, TMG fam? It's your boy L, and I'm back with another reaction. How y'all feel? Welcome back to the channel. Salute. So listen, man, if you do any type of investing or watch CNBC or Bloomberg or anything like that, man, then you know this story here was crucial, crucial to the markets, man. See what was going on, right? I was kind of a little bit following this story, you know what I mean, for as much as I could. And the boat that kind of broke down, caused a big traffic jam in the Suez Canal, man. It was crazy, bro. Because their first prediction of how long it was going to be down, actually, it ended up actually being shorter than they thought. But, boy, people were worried, fam. You hear me? People were worried. So I'm definitely interested to hear this whole story broke down by this channel, Real Life Galore. I think that's the name of this channel. Is that the name? Real Life Lore. Real Life Lore, right. All right, so this is how one boat just caused a $400 million an hour traffic jam. 400, not just 400 million traffic jam, $400 million an hour traffic jam. Now you can see why people were at the edge of their seats trying to see what was going on, fam. All right, let's check it out.
A couple weeks ago.
Uh-oh. Too far, and I was trying to skip that little thing at the beginning. Here we go.
My description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. At the end of March, just a couple weeks ago, something incredibly catastrophic happened that caused the entire global supply chain of goods to be thrown into total chaos. And it was all caused by a single ship and 25 people on board. It all began with a cargo ship called the Ever Given, a new class of mega container ships that was traveling from port in Malaysia to the port of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. Among the largest container ships in the entire world, the Ever Given is roughly the same length of the Empire State Building in New York City, at 400 meters long. And since it's capable of carrying 20,000 cargo containers, it's roughly the same weight as the Willis or Sears Tower is in Chicago. It's truly a colossal ship, and the shortest route for a ship of this size carrying goods from Asia to Europe is through the Suez Canal in Egypt. The Suez Canal was opened in 1869, and ever since, it's become one of the most important trade routes in the entire world. It offered ships transporting cargo between Europe and Asia a massive shortcut over the alternative of traveling all the way south around the African continent. Today, the Suez Canal continues to offer the quickest route for ships transporting the massive quantities of manufactured goods in China and Asia.
You can guarantee they're trying to figure out something else, because they don't want that happening again. No. They don't want that happening. As soon as that happened, you can bet that they were trying to figure out, okay, how can we prevent this from not happening again, bro? $400 million an hour. Somebody either lost their job. You know what I mean? That's an expensive down day.
To the massive market of affluent customers in Europe. And as a result, the Suez Canal is big business. Roughly 12% of all of the world's goods flow through the canal every year, and on average, 51 cargo ships carrying over $9 billion worth of oil, gas, grain, and consumer goods pass through it every single day. The canal is the primary reason for Egypt's geopolitical significance and one of the country's primary sources of revenue. Last year alone, generating over $5 billion for the country in fees for cargo ships passing through it. Entire wars have been fought over the ownership of the Suez Canal, and it's no wonder why. The alternative of traveling around Africa adds over 10 days of travel time and 3,800 miles to the average ship traveling between China and Europe, which means more money is spent on fuel, crew, and delays in getting cargo to their ports and into the hands of consumers. The Suez Canal is therefore an absolutely vital part of the global shipping industry, and the closure of the canal can wreak absolute havoc on this entire delicate, time-sensitive system. The canal has only been closed twice before this incident, and I made a video about one of those times, but this time could potentially be even worse, because global trade is bigger now than it ever has been before. Now, let's get back to the developing story of the Ever Given. The ship departed port in Malaysia carrying 20,000 cargo containers full of consumer products destined for Rotterdam, and according to the usual procedure, arrived at the port of Suez in the Red Sea while it awaited entry into the Suez Canal for its journey over to the Mediterranean, where it would afterwards sail along to Rotterdam. The Suez Canal Authority, or SCA, oversees traffic within the canal and, as usual, they place 2 official SCA pilots on board the Ever Given to help its crew travel along the complicated process of getting through the canal. But within hours of entering the canal, at approximately 7:30 a.m. local time on the 23rd of March, the Ever Given experienced a freak sandstorm event that obscured visibility aboard. Not only that, but the strong winds from the storm were pushing against the Ever Given's 20,000 cargo containers on top like it was all a giant sail. This ended up causing the ship to lose all ability to steer, pushed the ship sideways, and caused it to ram bow first into the east side of the Suez Canal. This point of the canal is only 200 meters wide, compared to the Ever Given's length of 400 meters. And since it was now positioned sideways, it meant that this entire width of the canal was blocked, which, in effect, meant that the entire Suez Canal system was all of a sudden rendered completely impassable by just a single boat.
You talking about people who were mad, bro? I saw comments from people talking about, yo, why don't they just, you know what I'm saying? Cut it through the middle, open it up and let other ships come through. Yo, people was hot, bro. They was hot about that.
Now, before we go any further, the Egyptian government has sort of been doing stuff to try and prevent a situation exactly like this from happening. They knew that as cargo ships have been getting bigger and bigger over the years to accommodate growing international demand, that eventually, ships would become too big to even get through the narrow Suez Canal. So, they knew in the early 2010s that something had to be done in order to increase the canal's capacity, and so, between 2012 and 2019, the Egyptian government initiated a more than $8 billion plan to expand it by adding additional channels at certain points. This meant that at these points, if a ship got stuck, it could be bypassed by other ships using the newly built adjacent channels. Unfortunately, though, these new secondary channels weren't constructed along the entire Suez Canal's length, and the entire stretch of the canal south of this lake was kept as just a single channel. Well, guess which part the Empire State Building-sized boat just crashed into? Yep, right here in the single-length channel, meaning that it was impossible for any other ships to get around it. Now, every single hour that this ship is stuck there is increasingly catastrophic for the entire global economy. $9 billion worth of goods travel through the canal every day, which means that for every hour the Ever Given is clogging up the canal, it's holding up $400 million worth of international trade. Immediately after the impact happened, 15 other ships who were traveling behind it pretty much immediately found themselves stuck as well. While, at the same time, around 200 more ships were waiting on both the north and south sides for them to clear the mess up before entering. By the end of the weekend following the crash, it was estimated that there would be over 300 ships waiting in line outside of the canal for entry. The worst traffic jam of the 21st century has just happened.
I told you, bro, it was crazy. It was crazy. If you didn't know about it, bro, you missed out on that whole like spectacle of events that took place. People in their comments, bro, how people were reacting, how the market was shaky, how everything, fam, like it was nuts, fam. Everybody was glued to the TV trying to hear what was the next update about the canal. What was the next update about the canal? What's going on? What's going on?
And it continues to get worse and worse. More ships are arriving at the Red Sea and Mediterranean ports every single day, and while initially, the SCA allowed ships in the Mediterranean to enter and anchor in this sea within the canal, it quickly reached capacity and the entire Suez Canal was shut down for all traffic afterwards. It's incredibly apparent in these sets of satellite photographs taken by the European Space Agency over the southern entry point to the canal on the Red Sea. On the left, we have a photo taken on the 21st of March before the Ever Given became stuck, and it looks fairly normal. And on the right, we have a photo taken in the exact same place just 4 days later on the 25th of March, just 2 days after the Ever Given ran aground. You can clearly see the massive backlog of ships queuing up outside waiting to enter, which was forcing the captains of new ships arriving and old ships remaining stuck to make a critical decision. Would they continue to anchor outside of the Suez ports and just wait it out, hoping that it would only take a few more days to move the Ever Given out of the way? Or would they cut their losses and change course for the longer and more expensive route around Africa? Moving around Africa would add 10 days of unexpected travel times and approximately $26,000 per day of extra costs in fuel. But waiting around at the Suez ports had an unknown time and cost restriction. After the ship crashed on Tuesday the 23rd, there were genuine fears among many that removing the Ever Given could have taken several weeks. And in that event, changing course for going around Africa would have been the better play. On the other hand, if a ship decided to do this and got halfway around Cape Town into the Atlantic and then all of a sudden the ship was freed, it would have probably been a bad play. Nobody knew what was the right call to make, but every single day that the Ever Given remained stuck, the situation got worse and worse. The Suez Canal can only allow a maximum of 106 ships through it every day, and as each day passes, the number of ships queuing up outside just keeps building and building. Each day the canal is closed adds more ships to this queue, and adds more time for the SCA to process ships traveling through in the order that they showed up in, which effectively causes a ripple effect of delays. If the canal is closed for 4 days, then it'll take 4 days after them reopening to essentially just catch back up to where they were before the closure happened. In effect, this means that each day the canal is shut will cause an exponential slowdown in the entire flow of goods between Europe and Asia, and really the entire world, leading to increased prices on goods and fuel that'll be passed on to consumers. It's estimated that a closure of the canal for even 2 weeks could result in the stranding of as much as 1/4 of the cargo containers that would usually be within European ports by this point. And all of this is happening when the supply of cargo containers is already at an almost historic low. Because of the global pandemic going on that you've maybe heard about, the demand in Europe and North America for consumer goods produced in China has skyrocketed.
And see, that's why a lot of people were, they was like, man, we just, you know what I mean, just came through the pandemic. Now to have this hit, bro, man, people were nervous. Speaking of Marcus, y'all heard, rest in peace to Bernie Madoff. Y'all saw that today? That was insane, man. I ain't even get a chance to hear. I just saw it a little while ago on my screen happen.
And as a result, the historic continuous flow of cargo on ships from China has been clogging ports across the developed world, and combined with a shortage in availability of workers due to the pandemic, it's been causing widespread historic delays in processing and shortages in containers. Before the Suez even became blocked, the cost of shipping a container from China to North America had more than doubled since November of last year to the present. And as a result of that, many shipping companies in the United States were rerouting their cargo arriving from Asia from the West Coast to the US East Coast instead. Before the Suez closure, 1/3 of all cargo arriving to the US East Coast from Asia was traveling through the Suez Canal. And this is obviously now impacted as well. In effect, the Ever Given crashing into the side of the Suez Canal happened at probably the worst possible time, since there's an already unprecedentedly stressed global supply chain.
Y'all saw some of those headlines, right? Let me see, can I get them all?
Now, and this is obviously now impacted as well. In effect,
Suez Canal blocked after giant container ship gets stuck, stretching more than 1,300 feet, ran aground, and blocked one of the world's most vital shipping lanes, leaving more than 100 ships stuck.
The Ever Given crashing into the side of the Suez Canal,
dislodging a huge ship blocking the Suez Canal, could take days to weeks as the traffic jam builds, bro.
happened at probably the worst possible time.
Suez Canal could be blocked for weeks with a 10 billion in shipping traffic per day disruptive.
since there's an already unprecedentedly stressed global supply chain. The race to free the ship and unblock one of the world's most vital arteries at its most critical moment, therefore, began immediately. But it's been very difficult. Here's a bunch of photos that have been taken of the situation. It turns out that removing a big boat the size and weight of one of humanity's biggest skyscrapers that's firmly lodged into the beach on two sides of a narrow canal is actually a pretty difficult task to accomplish. Initially, the Egyptian government summoned a fleet of tugboats to the scene to nudge and pull the Ever Given out of place. But the ship turned out to be too big and too heavy for this alone to work. So, next up, they brought out a series of excavators to begin digging away the sand and the mud from beneath the ship's bow in an attempt to free it, but it was slammed in too deep. So next up, they hired a Dutch and a Japanese company to bring out some dredgers to essentially suck up the sand and the mud from beneath the ship's bow in an attempt to get it floating again and free from the bank. This was moderately successful early on, but the ship would ultimately be freed with the help from the forces of nature. Tides. The rising and falling of the sea is a constant phenomenon across the world and is obviously a force to be reckoned with within the Suez Canal as well. High tides will occur 12 hours and 25 minutes apart, and it takes 6 hours and 12.5 minutes for water at the shore to go from high to low or from low to high. These were the best windows for the salvage crews to work in to free the Ever Given because each time the tide rose, the massive boat stood a better chance of actually becoming buoyant again, and the tugboats used these to their advantage. On Sunday, the 28th of March, 5 days after the Ever Given had become trapped, the sun and moon were in alignment and their combined gravity resulted in an exceptionally strong high tide that helped the workers and engineers on the ground to finally be able to yank the ship free on Monday, the 29th of March. After being stuck and blocking one of the world's most vital trade arteries for 6 days, the Ever Given was transported up to the widest section of the Suez Canal up here and placed out of the way so that normal traffic could once again resume. More than $54 billion worth of trade goods were held up or disrupted as an immediate consequence of the Ever Given's incident, a figure approximately the same as the annual GDP of Croatia. But as of the writing of this script, the situation still isn't over. As the canal was blocked for 6 days, that meant that hundreds of other cargo ships who arrived during that time were simply waiting outside to pass through. Even after the Ever Given was cleared out, it still meant a timescale of several days to process these ships through the canal and get back to business as usual. As it was, the Syrian government already announced that it would begin rationing fuel after the Suez closure delayed a critical shipment of oil, and Lebanon was forced to concede that if the closure went on any longer, they would have begun to ration fuel as well. The 6-day shutdown of the Suez Canal affected as much as 15% of the entire world's shipping container capacity, which led to shipping delays across the entire globe. And all of this global chaos was caused by just a single ship with 25 people on board, and it only lasted for 6 days. Just imagine how catastrophic the global consequences might have been if the canal was shut down for any longer. People are sometimes really good at creating challenges for other people to solve. But some people do it in a way that's a lot more helpful and beneficial than ramming a giant ship into one of the world's most important trade routes. Perhaps you have your own challenges you're facing right now for a big personal goal or passion project that you've been excited to start, but you're not sure that you have the skills required to do it just yet. Thankfully for you, Skillshare can help you out when you go to visit them next.
Yeah, that's the end. But bro, like I know a lot of y'all was familiar with it, but for those of you who weren't, man, telling y'all, bro, that was just catastrophic. And each day that went by, bro, the anxiety continued to grow and grow, man, of what's gonna happen, what's gonna happen. You know, update. You were having updates on top of updates, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know CNBC, every time I turned it on, they were talking about it. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, I just wanted to hear like the full story because, you know, I was aware of it. I didn't really know what caused it. So, and then I didn't know how it got free. I just knew that it was free. And that's all people really cared about anyway. It's free. It's back up and running. It's not clogged up. Boats is moving through there now. Okay, let's go. Ships is moving. Let's go. So yeah, man. Y'all get at me in the comment section though, man. Let me know what y'all thought of this video. This was super dope. All right, till the next one, I'm out. Peace. I'm gone. Hey.